Hello, my name is Sarah J, and welcome to another episode of the Adaptation vlog. This week, we are talking about something very near and dear to all of our hearts, parodies. Think about it, parodies really are the best form of adaptation. You take any story at all, and you turn it into a comedy, or just something that at least is passably mocking, and it becomes a parody. So honestly, parodies are the adaptation to watch, and this week we have a list of quite a few excellent ones, in my humble opinion. So, let's begin. First up, we have Vampires Suck, which is a parody, of course, of the horrible, horrible Twilight series. The thing that made this a good parody to watch, though, other than the fact that it riffs on a franchise that a lot of us are completely over at this point, is that the jokes are funny. The actors that they chose to be the leads were really entertaining and spot on with their mimicry. They could have been Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson's stunt doubles for Twilight because they were just so perfect at following their mannerisms and their ways of speaking. It was just excellent. If you haven't seen it, you should. It only covers the first two films in the Twilight series because at the time those were the only ones that were out, but it is very, very good. Kind of in the same vein is one of the original parodies that set the standards for the parody genre, Scary Movie, the original. It made fun of all the scary movies that were out at the time. The one it really focuses on was Scream, but then there are other movie elements thrown in there just for good measure. It's basically the granddaddy of the Scary Movie franchise, which has a bunch of spin-offs, as we all know, as well as other things such as a haunted house. But it really reinvigorated the genre and started the new wave, if you will. Part of the reason we liked it is because it wasn't afraid to use gross humor, sex, and ridiculousness to make us laugh, in addition to really just riffing on some of those movies that got a little bit ridiculous. They're supposed to be horror, but they were really kind of just silly. Next up is a parody of a musical. It's rather a recent parody, but it's one that's really struck a note with us here at Adaptation recently. It's called Twisted, and it is a spin-off of the Aladdin tale, specifically the Disney Aladdin tale. It's sort of a mix of Wicked, the musical, and Aladdin. It's clever, it's insightful, the lyrics are genius, and the musical stylings are really reminiscent, like I said, of Wicked, so it makes it very easy to watch, very entertaining. Really catchy songs, great acting, wicked sense of humor. You see what I did there? I'm a genius. I'm kidding. The people that wrote this musical are way more genius than I will ever be. But I tried, so can't blame me. We also have Men in Tights, and I personally think that the world needs more Robin Hood stories like it needs a shot in the head. The defining Robin Hood in my eyes is the Kevin Costner Robin Hood, but Men in Tights is a close second because it gave us a Robin Hood that actually has an English accent, as is one of the lines in the movies, and it's also just really silly but funny, like actually funny. It doesn't have to use crazy antics or gore or just, it doesn't resort to cheap tricks. It's just genuinely funny. There's guys singing and dancing in too tight-fitting clothes. There's a mole that keeps wandering around some dude's face. It's got a perfect blend of slapstick and obvious humor, but then also subtle humor as well, which makes it really resonate with us. In the same vein as Spaceballs. It came from Mel Brooks, who is probably the master of parodies because, let's just admit, he's a comic genius and the world will be a better place. It basically took the premise of the main franchise Star Wars and expounded on it to include other sci-fi movies and similar films such as Alien, which is my favorite part of the movie, the chestburster singing and dancing. And whether or not you've seen Spaceballs, I can guarantee you that you've quoted it at least one time in your life. That's how prevalent it is in our society. Next up, Avatar: The Last Airbender, specifically episode 17 of season 3, The Ember Island Players. Even if you've never seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, this is an excellent episode to watch because it basically wraps up the entire series to that point in a horribly overacted, overproduced, overdramatic stage show that the characters watch. So they're basically watching the story of themselves being acted out by these horrible ham actors, and it's amazing. Not only is it just fun, fondly glancing back at things that happened in the past seasons and kind of recapping it because they're getting to the end of the series at this point, but it actually gives you valuable insight into how the characters view themselves as well as each other through an outsider's lens. It's not often we get to see what people think of us in a true light, and the way they react to that revelation is quite entertaining in and of itself. It's actually more entertaining to watch them watching a story about themselves than it is to watch the story again. So I think it's a great use of parody as a narrative tool. Also in the same vein of television shows, we have Supernatural, season 6, episode 15, The French Mistake, which is the episode where Dean and Sam get transported to the real world where they're Jensen and Jared, and all of Supernatural is actually just a television show. Surprise! Surprise! Who saw that coming? The highlight for me of this episode, what I thought was the most hilarious thing ever, was Misha Collins and his constant need to tweet everything that was happening to his devoted Twitter fans. He's, finally starting to feel like one of the guys, and he gets into the car and ever get that feeling like someone's in the back seat, frowny face. It just makes me crack up. Overall, it was great for the cast and crew to take center stage. A lot of the people that were actors, extra actors in that episode, were actually cast and crew that were working on the show. So it was great to see them just kind of playing around, being themselves, making fun of it, really just getting silly. That's the word of the day, I think, here. Silly. Just parodies in general. One word. Silly. It works. Next up is a film that is once again circling back around to that horror genre. It's called Hell Baby, starring Rob Corddry. It's basically a parody of the Exorcism, Possession, Devil Child movies. I've never seen it. The commercials for it look fantastic, and apparently it is a great parody of the horror genre overall. I'm pretty excited. Probably going to watch it after I finish filming this, let's be honest. One of my personal favorites, though, of the sci-fi genre, Mars Attacks. This is a movie that is set in the 1990s with aliens from Mars coming to Earth to apparently make peace, but really it's a galactic invasion, and it's just funny all around how they do it. It basically took every stereotype of the 1960s, 1950s horror sci-fi genre and turned it on its head. Everything about the movie is unbelievable. The actors are over the top, the characters are just crazy. There's probably like one character that makes any kind of sense in this movie. The costumes, even the aliens themselves, they're just ridiculous looking. Like, go look up a picture of them on Google. Crazy face. We do have a couple honorable mentions. We didn't think they were quite good enough to be put on as the list themselves. Boy Meets World parodied itself in an episode where they watched a show called Kid Gets Acquainted with the Universe. Something like that. I'm not sure. I never watched Boy Meets World. I'll give you a moment to process that. Okay, moving on. Another honorable mention is Blazing Saddles. Once again, a great Mel Brooks movie, but we had so much Mel Brooks in this list that it was just going to be like, why not talk about Mel Brooks and how great his movies are? So it only made it to the honorable mention tab. But with its sheer awesomeness and hilarity and just all-around cleverness, it maybe should have made it to the actual list. So, Adaptation viewers, tell us your favorite parodies below in the comments or your favorite parody moments, and you never know, they might make it into another vlog. I've been Sarah J. This has been Adaptation. Once again, please follow us on Twitter, Facebook, listen to the podcast, download the vlog, read the blog, and just keep being awesome. See you next time.